Hi, everyone, and welcome to ReceptionScope. We are your hosts. My name is Cassie, and this is Charity. We're
Hi.
going to get into a really exciting webinar this month with our special guest, well-known author Cynthia Kane. But before we do that, we're going to do something kind of fun. We are introducing a new topic called YT in the Wild. Now, this is going to be YT's version of the hot update, what's happening with us behind the scenes, so you can get to know us a little bit better.
Yep.
Oh,
Look at
that picture. I love that. So cute. She looks
oh,
adorable.
thank you. I appreciate it. It was a battle. We're going between Elsa and Rapunzel.
Okay.
It's been a back and forth, but it's finalized. We got the Elsa costume. It's hidden, so she doesn't want to wear it. So I'm letting her wear this one as much as she wants. But yeah, I want a pet trucker. He looks so cute.
So it's anyone watching that has a furry dog knows my pain, but he gets a monthly bath and it's about a 2-hour ordeal and he's miserable through the whole thing. Of course, he can't stand it. But then we leave and this picture is taken right after we left. And I can't help but to think he might like the blow dry a little bit because he's sort of posing for me here.
He's like
So
smiling, yeah, for sure.
yeah. So but yeah, that was last week and he's hilarious, but he's gonna be a shark for Halloween.
Oh, Arya will definitely sing the song for him.
Yes. I love it.
Yes. So, today's webinar, we're going to start with hot updates. We're going to reflect on what other practices are doing with our view from the scope. We're going to review the top 5 that we went over last month, and then we're going to dive into this month's focus and we're going to introduce our special guest, wrap everything up with some special announcements. Let's get started.
Awesome. All right, guys. So starting with our hot updates, you guys know these are things that are happening in our practices that our practices share with us, and then we share them on our reception scope. And so without further ado, the first one we want to share is a personal one from Nikki from Maine Plastic Surgery. Her husband just had his 3rd successful brain surgery for early onset Parkinson's, and he's doing amazing, and he is a true champion. And all of our thoughts are with you guys, and thank you for sharing.
I'm so happy to hear that everything went well.
Yeah, me too.
And then we have another one of Dr. Brace from Guelph Facial Plastics. He is in Ukraine on a medical mission called Face the Fortune. He's there to teach and perform reconstructive surgeries on soldiers and civilians. He's going to be there for about 10 days, but thank you so much for giving back.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. What a great practice. Our third hot update also comes from Guelph Facial Plastics. They just welcomed their newest member to their front desk team, Brooke. We're so excited to have you as a part of the YT community, and welcome to Guelph Facial Plastics.
Welcome. And as a reminder, we review calls from non-YT practices just to see some do's and don'ts in comparison to what we currently do. And so let's listen to this one.
Hi, Marjorie. I just have some questions about rhinoplasty. How much do you charge for those procedures?
Our cost runs right around $13,925, and those fees are inclusive of the surgeon's fee, facility, anesthesia, pre and post-op care.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So a bit of a rough call there, but some of the, wins, she did answer the patient's questions right away. There was a little bit of a pause there, but she did eventually, looks like she was probably trying to get to some literature that had the pricing in it, but she did, at least have the initiative to answer the patient's question.
Yeah, and let's dive into those fails. So, first and foremost, this is a new patient calling into a practice, and this is where our first impression really plays a big role with someone calling in. So, one of the things that she lacked was enthusiasm. She didn't seem excited that this patient, or she didn't seem excited that she wanted to even help the patient. And then, secondly, as we reiterate, week over week, one of the most important key elements of these calls is she didn't gather their demographic information, first name, last name. So although the patient was interested and wanted to know pricing, we didn't go above and beyond and gather the information to make sure that we could follow up with them. And then she also gave pricing right away. By doing that, nothing differentiated the practice from other practices. There was no credentialing of the providers. There was nothing that really stated my practice is amazing and the best, and you found the right place. So a lot of fails here.
Yeah. And the general takeaway that we want, all of our viewers to take away from this call is we need to, on every single call, be making sure that we're creating assurance to the patient. Why would they go to our practice versus, the 20 others in a 100-mile radius? We know why our practice is so great. We know why they should come there. But if they're choosing to get a rhinoplasty, why should they come to us outside of just, what the cost is? Like Charity just mentioned, our surgeon, our facility, we really need to build that value, especially for a brand new patient that's inquiring about a surgical procedure.
Absolutely. And then we're going to review a top 5 from last month. And last month was a little bit different. We gave different scenarios, that spooky scenarios that happened at the front desk, and different solutions of how to handle these situations.
So we picked 5 key things, and really a couple of the first are avoiding unfortunate language, things like "I'm sorry," "unfortunately," wording like that can really create a negative connotation for the patient before they even have the ability to kind of decide how they feel about something. Number 2, being a mastery of the schedule all the time. So really making sure that you're always a champion for not only your practice, but the patient, and really doing everything you possibly can with the schedule to make it work out in both parties' favor. We talked about how to handle the angry patient, how to de-escalate those tough situations, and a lot of review for things that you guys already know, but good coming into a busy holiday season.
Yeah. And then, we discussed how to handle medical reps during the busy season, etiquette, things of that nature. And then being in a united front, we want to show to our patients that our entire staff is on the same page and insulating us from looking disjointed as a team as well.
Absolutely. So we are going to get into this month's webinar, which I am so excited about. Zen at the Front Desk, Stress Management for a Happy Team. We are about to bring on our special guest, who is a well-known author and corporate communication specialist, Cynthia Kane. She has an impressive background in mindfulness and meditation with degrees from Bard College and Sarah Lawrence College. Her expertise has been featured in major publications like the Washington Post, BBC Travel, the Yoga Journal. Cynthia's work empowers individuals and organizations to communicate more effectively and mindfully. We're really excited for her to share her insights with us today. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
All right, Cynthia, we're going to turn the time over to you.
Yeah, it's all yours.
Sounds good. All right. Well, once again, I'm really excited to be able to spend this time with you all today. And, just listening on to what you guys have talked to in terms of, engaging on those calls and handling angry patients. I think that's what it was. A lot of the work that I'm going to talk to today is going to make all of those tools and practices really easier for you to implement. And so just to start out for us today, I want you to think about, you can close your eyes if you want to, and we can just settle into the space for a minute. But I want you to think about a call that you had, an interaction that you had that was stressful for you, that brought on maybe some overwhelm, and there was a lot of pressure. And I just want you to pay attention to how you responded in that interaction. What was happening for you in that stressful moment? So in terms of the language that you were using, how you were interacting maybe with the person, with the phone, with a piece of paper, with inanimate objects. Just taking a minute to see how stressful moments affect you. And then you can let that image go. And maybe here, call to mind now an interaction that you had that was comfortable. It felt productive. It felt positive. And see here if you can notice how you're interacting, what type of language you're using, maybe even noticing how your posture is in that moment, how you're interacting with a pen, a pencil, the computer, the keyboard. Noticing how you are within more calm and relaxed interactions. And you can just take a breath and an exhale and let those images and thoughts and stories go. And the reason why I like us to kind of start here is because sometimes we don't really pay attention to how we are in our interactions, especially seeing the difference between a stressful interaction and a more calm and relaxed interaction, what's happening within our bodies, the sensations, the language that we're using. Oftentimes when we're in these stressful interactions, our language can potentially be really short. It can have a different tone. Sometimes maybe our voice can even get louder. There are times also where we shut down completely and we kind of freeze up and we're not really sure how to respond in those moments. And there can also be a lot of, banging in terms of just pressure on a keyboard when you're typing, when you're writing. And then you compare that maybe to a more relaxed conversation, and there's more comfort in the body, there's more space in the body, and language tends to be more flowing. The interaction is a little slower, and it feels more of a collaboration, right? A team effort in terms of the conversation. And most of us really crave those more comfortable scenarios, right? Where everything flows really easily and everyone feels taken care of. Often, though, what happens is we come across those interactions that are more stressful, right? A little more chaotic, that require more from us in those moments. And that can be really taxing and really exhausting. So we obviously want more of the calm. So how do we find that, right? How do we find the calm in what can feel often chaotic and overwhelming? And that's what I want to talk to today. I want to give you some practices that you can do to help you find that space when it feels overwhelming and exhausting and you're in that state of reacting. And first, though, before I get to the practices, I want to get into a little bit about why this is hard to do, right? Like, it would be amazing if every interaction we had was really calm and relaxing and compassionate and kind. And, that's what we want. That's what we strive for. But the reality is that our nervous system was actually not necessarily built for those reactions in that environment, right? We were really built to run from a threat. So think of, when we were cavemen and we were being chased by lions and tigers, right? Within our bodies, our nervous system said, there's a threat, you need to survive, you need to run, you need to protect yourself, right? And now our bodies have not, our nervous system is the same as it was, right? So the only difference now is that we don't see lions and tigers. What we have are people on the end of a phone call or at the other side of a table, right? And those types of interactions cause the same sensations in our body that say to our body, you are unsafe, things aren't comfortable here, you need to get out of Dodge, basically, right? So our nervous system, when we feel threatened in some way, goes into what you might already know of is the fight, flight, freeze response. And this is really the stress response. So this is when cortisol is pumping all through our body and we can't access our logical thinking in that moment. We really can't access ourselves because everything is working to help us survive in that moment. And I know it sounds wild because we're talking about a phone call or we're talking about a meeting, but our brain and our bodies don't know the difference between a tiger and a human, right? So what we're working with really is our nervous system when it comes to creating more calm. So in that chaos, our nervous system, our bodies feel uncomfortable. We feel threatened in some way by what's happening. And so we go on the defensive. And all of us have different ways that we defend ourselves when we're in these situations, right? Some people shut down completely. It's like they completely unplug. They're frozen, right? Some people get really passive aggressive. Some people lash out, so they yell and they get vocally angry. Some people will just walk away completely. Some will over-explain, some will dodge, some will lie, right? There's so many different reactions that we can have to defend ourselves and protect ourselves because we feel threatened in some way. And so this is just how we are wired, right? We are human beings, so we are wired to react in this way. So, if you have difficult conversations and stressful interactions and you have reacted in one of the ways that I've described, you are not alone. I am like queen of passive aggressive behavior over here. I mean, I've been able to get it in check, but still,
Yeah.
we all have these default reactions, right? I really believe there are superpowers, but that's for another time.
Next one.
Yeah, next time. But yeah, so pretty much, right, we want to feel calm, but our nervous system is saying, hey, there's trouble here. We got to protect ourselves. So we go into these default reactions of ours. So what we're looking to do instead in these moments is, can we find the other part of our nervous system that is called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is really the rest and digest response. So the parasympathetic nervous system, I like to liken it to, if you've ever experienced a morning, maybe you wake up before your kids or you wake up before the dog, possibly, I don't know. But like there's a moment where there's just kind of calm and it's empty space. And you can look out, even if it's on vacation, you look out a window, you look at the trees, or like you're in front of a river and you can watch the water going. There are these moments in our bodies of rest, right? And there's moments in our bodies where we feel really comfortable and we feel really safe. When we are in those places, that is when we are in our parasympathetic nervous system. The challenge is that the majority of us right now live in the sympathetic nervous system because we have so much going on that is really, really stressful, right? So it can feel really hard to access the parasympathetic or that rest and digest within the body. And that's what we want to start getting more and more familiar with, how to practice accessing the parasympathetic nervous system. Because when we're in these stressful situations, we want to, it's almost like we are, on a sports team and in sports where they sub a player. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do in these moments is we're subbing out the sympathetic nervous system and we're subbing in the parasympathetic nervous system. Mm-hmm. So if we can, in these stressful situations, help our body feel safe and calm, then our words become calm. We're more able to, be more engaged on a call. We can handle whatever the anger is on the opposite side without attaching to it or getting hooked into it, right? So because our body feels safe, because we feel safe, we can handle what is there, right? So that's what these practices that I'm going to share with you help you do, right? So how do we actually do that though? How do we sub in this rest and digest feeling within the body, that rest within the body? And we do that through mindfulness practices. So mindfulness is really paying attention to what is happening with a gentle and friendly attention, which means you can become mindful of anything, right? You can put your attention right now on the top of your head, just moving your attention to the top of the head and moving your attention maybe to your ear, to your knee, right? That's being mindful of places on the body. It's a really gentle attention. It's not a hard focused attention. And really what it means is just paying attention to what is happening with a very friendly focus, right? So mindfulness practices, what they do is they help us connect with the rest and digest. They help take us out of the reactive behavior and they move us into responsive behavior. They help us focus more on one thing at a time instead of what we generally do is we kind of see everything and we focus on everything and it can become overwhelming, right? What mindfulness helps us do is focus on one thing at a time and access the present moment. Because when we are in the sympathetic nervous system, I mean, we are 1,000 steps ahead of where we are sitting, right? And that is anxiety, anxious thoughts, all the things. And when we're here in this moment that we're here together right now with our feet on the ground, this is the present moment that we want to find rest in so that we can communicate in a more calm way or just be more calm in these situations, right? So the practices that I help with, or it's a practice that I created, it's really called the soften practice, but they're soften practices and it's an acronym. So the soften practices are mindfulness practices that help you access yourself in the moment so that you don't get caught up in the chaos. So the soften practices are, I'm just going to list what they are, and then I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to tell you what it is, why it helps, and then I'm going to give you the actual practice. And you can take these practices, choose one, try it out for a week or so, then move on to the next one, try it out for a week, because the idea is to find a tool that you can use in that moment that you feel unsafe, right? Like a practice that is going to help you feel better in that moment to be able to engage, right? So the first one is sensation. Then it's own your own suffering, focusing on the present moment, taking a breath, your eyes turned toward another person and need to say. I just wanted to run through all of them, but I'm going to go into each one. So the first piece is sensation. Sensation, I think, is the prerequisite for all of these practices because we have to be able to know what we're feeling so that we can change it, right? If we are not aware that we are in a stressful situation, if we are not aware of discomfort in the body, then we're not going to be able to move ourselves out of it, right? So sensation is really important because it means we have to bring awareness to what is happening within our bodies in an uncomfortable situation, which is why I started today with that exercise, just to get you thinking a little bit about what's happening within you during these difficult moments. And sensation, we usually have 3 sensations in our body. We have pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, right? So pleasant sensation is, when you're excited about something, you can feel that excitement in your body, right? When you're grateful, you can feel gratitude in the body. When the body feels relaxed, right? Those sensations are more like it's pleasant sensation, right? Neutral is more, think of like behind your knee. If you put your attention behind your knee, it's not really like you don't feel much of anything, right? It's just kind of neutral. It's not, it's kind of like a place where you would want to become more curious, or usually a place where you get bored is kind of a neutral sensation. And then unpleasant sensation is something that's difficult or challenging. So what we want to start to get familiar with is the unpleasant sensations that happen when you're stressed. So unpleasant sensations mean your heart starts beating faster, you start sweating, I'm like a big sweater. So you start sweating. Maybe your jaw gets really clenched and tight. Maybe your throat feels really tight. Sometimes people can feel like they're being like punched in the stomach or just like nausea, right? Sensations of, tingling or swallowing or, really anything that's happening within the body, sensation wise. It's important to just think about, because the sensation becomes your cue to know, okay, I am going to react how I usually do, right? I'm feeling like I'm going to vomit. I'm about to yell at this person, or I'm about to hang up on this person or walk away. Where what our work now, hopefully, is, right? We feel that sensation and we grab a practice to help move through that so we can stay in our seat. We can speak in a calm way. So take a minute and just think about the last interaction you had that was difficult and what was happening in your body, like sensation wise. Just take a minute. And you might not know, and that's okay if you don't know. It's starting to just ask yourself the question to kind of get more familiar with what's happening there. Okay. You don't even have to know exactly what it is, as long as you understand there's discomfort here somewhere, right? Discomfort is happening. So the first piece is a sensation. It's the awareness of discomfort in the body. And one question I get a lot is, well, how do you know, like, how do you differentiate between feeling and sensation, right?
Mhm.
Sensation is, it's more physical, right? Like a physical reaction that's happening in the body, as opposed to feeling is more of, it's like a feeling tone. I don't know. I'm hoping that makes sense. So you're going to start to pay attention to the sensation. Then when the sensation is high in terms of discomfort, then we're going to look into the other practices that you use, right? So, okay. So sensation is high. You're feeling uncomfortable. Your throat's tight. Your palms are sweating. And you're like, okay, here I am. I'm in my sympathetic nervous system. I'm going to end up reacting like I always do. One practice that you can do to help yourself feel more calm is to own your own suffering. What does that mean, right? Suffering here is like a large word, but it really just means you're owning your discomfort, okay? Usually when we're in these interactions, we want the other person to give us something to feel better, right? We're looking for the other person maybe to be kind to us. We're looking for the other person to validate us. We're looking for the other person to tell us what we want to hear, potentially, to feel better. What we want to do instead is we want to be the person for ourselves in that moment, to give us what we need in that moment so that we feel okay. So co-regulation is a big piece of human connection. And so what we want to do is we want to do that for ourselves, right? So in the moment, this helps us because it helps relax our nervous system. We find the nurturing that we need, that we're craving from the other person, that we're able to give to ourselves. So what does that actually look like in a conversation? It looks like accessing something called the vagus nerve, which is like the longest parasympathetic nerve in the body. And you can access it pretty quickly, right? Just by rubbing your ear, like your earlobe. You can rub the side of your neck, right? You can start to feel your body starting to relax by rubbing the side of your neck, right? You can rub like in circles around the chest, right? You can do, there's something called a havening technique, which is basically you start at the top with your hand and you come down your arm to your wrist. And you can do these things within conversation, and it doesn't have to be over the top, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like you're playing with an earring, and like sometimes for men, they'll rub their jaw, right? Because right here, the vagus nerve starts kind of right behind your right? So they like you can rub your jaw, but touch is really important in these moments because it tells your body you're nurturing yourself in that moment, right? So you're really learning in that moment how to self-soothe.
Is it
Right?
also like a distraction essentially from what your body is going through as well, right?
Yeah. So your body is saying, I'm not comfortable right now. And you're saying, yes, you are. You're okay. Like, we're good. I've got you. I'm here. Right.
Mhm.
So it's shifting your attention away from the other person
Mhm.
to yourself, which
Okay.
is what the majority of this work teaches you to do. Because in those conversations or when you're in that heightened state, our focus is really outward, right? On the other person, on the thing that's happening. And all that does is create more of the stress, more of the anxiety, more of like the stories that we don't necessarily know, right?
Yeah.
So when we can take the attention back off of that onto ourselves, then we get to feel differently. We feel more in control, right?
I was gonna say
So, yeah.
society teaches us almost to focus outward, not inward in those situations, ever since we've
Yeah.
been, I feel like that's what we grew up to believe is, focus on the person, outside of you and you last. So
Right.
it's interesting.
And so now the work is you focus on yourself first so that
Mhm.
then you can focus on the other person.
Mhm.
Right? Then you can truly look at the other person as someone that you want to be connecting with, helpful towards, and so on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
So, usually in conversations, we want other people to give us what we need to feel better in these difficult interactions. But now we can do that for ourselves, right? We can just rub our shoulders, do the ear, do the neck. I mean, there's a lot more, but these are really easy ones that you can just kind of go towards, right?
It's not too obvious at the front desk if you're encountering, a difficult patient. You can do it without being
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah. And there's even like you can rub the webbing between the thumb and the finger because this is like a pressure point for anxiety and for stress, right? You can rub into your hand there. You can do finger taps like this,
Okay.
right? And it's the rhythm of that and the touch.
Interesting. Okay.
So it calms the body. So that's one practice, right? Owning your own suffering. Another one that you can do is focus on the present. So focusing on the present is really important because what we were just talking about, right? We get really distracted when we're stressed out. We focus on everything else. Like we focus on all the things that aren't going well, or we focus on, the challenges, and we can get really stuck in that web, right? And when we're there, our nervous system is still in that heightened state. But the present moment is when you experience joy. It's when you experience love. It's when you're creative, right? The present moment is the moment where everything is okay because we're reminded this moment here right now is good. It's a good moment, So that helps, again, our nervous system regulate itself. So how do you focus on the present moment when you are in these chaotic situations, right? You can pick something, on your desk or, in the office or wherever you are that becomes more of a mindful reminder to be present, right? So, you look down and maybe you have a pencil holder, or maybe it's even like the mouse of your computer, or maybe it's a specific number on the telephone, right? That's in front of you or whatever it might be. But you intentionally choose something around you that reminds you that you're here, right? And basically looking at that and saying, I'm here now. This is the moment, like this is a present moment that I'm here for, right? or it can simply be moving your attention to your feet, like just putting your attention on your feet, your hands, your belly, and asking, like, what are my feet doing right now? Right? What's my belly doing right now? What are my hands doing right now? But you can do that when you're in a interaction, right? You can do that when you're in a stressful situation. You're still with the other person, but your attention is moving to a place that's present, right?
Are you still able to, because sometimes putting your attention on that moment or on that positive, will they not hear what the patient is saying because they're focusing inward as well?
Yeah. So there's a foreground and a background.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to, the foreground is the conversation that you're in on the phone. The background is what's happening in the body,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the background, you're still listening. It's more that it's almost like you become more of an observer in the situation, right? So you're on the call, you're listening, but to be able to keep yourself in a state of calm and rest, you're just noticing, okay, what are my feet doing? What are my hands doing? What's my belly doing? And then you're back, it's like 30-second
Got it.
type
Okay.
of thing.
Think about situations too, just, as you're talking, like where I've been really stressed and I almost don't receive or like even hear what the other person is saying because my body is so tense. I'm clenching. I'm like, I almost shut down. So it's so interesting, kind of like how you're framing that is like, take care of yourself first, then you'll be able to actually listen to the feedback or whatever is going on and be able to address that even better than you would if you're I think a lot of times we feel, as just human beings, like the more we stress and the tenser we get and the bigger reaction we have, that means we care more. But in reality, we're not, it's not a care thing. It's we're actually making the situation worse for everybody.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
And it's interesting too, because we'll put somebody on hold really quickly, right? Like the amount of times that I've called a place and the first thing is like, I need to put you on hold, and they put me on hold, right? But we can do the same thing in a more heightened situation. We can say, I just need to put you on hold for 1 minute, and then you put the person on hold, you do a quick check, and then you come back, right? And I think that that's also something with being present is it requires that we know when we need to just take a moment, right? And it also is being present means that we can slow everything down. And that's another great practice for becoming present is to just slow your movements down, everything down when you're on a call or when you're, across a table. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did own your own suffering. We did focus on the present. Another one is taking a breath, right? This one is, most people talk about this a lot, right? It's just take a breath. But again, you can't take a breath unless you're aware that you need to take a breath. And so the sensation piece is really important. The awareness of the discomfort. And then okay, I'm uncomfortable here. It's time for me to take a breath, meaning it can just be an inhale or an exhale, or you can do a breath pattern, which is really helpful, right? So even if you inhale for 5, you hold for 5, and you exhale for 5. And that's something you can do very subtly, right? They're not going to know that that's what you're doing. So it can be a really easy go-to practice of just, oh, there's a sensation. I'm going to just, right? And if you can focus more on the exhale, which helps as well, because that helps relax the body into the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what breathing does. Most of us don't breathe in conversations. We completely forget about the breath. So if we can remember the breath and say, am I breathing right now? Like, am I breathing here?
Yeah.
Then we can just take a breath and everything really settles when we do that, right? And starting to pay attention to whether your breathing is good as well in these conversations in stressful situations. Because most of the time when we're stressed, we're not breathing, or we're breathing more from up here. And if we can begin to move the breath into the belly, even just putting your hand on your belly and breathing deeply so that it rises and then falls, and like playing around with moving the breath, because the belly is also one of the fastest ways to access the vagus nerve, right? With the deep breathing, belly breathing. So a breath pattern or belly breathing is a really go-to practice to do when you feel the sensation.
By incorporating that, it's almost, we see a lot of difficult phone calls or difficult patient interactions. The first thing that, front desk staff or any of us do is we almost get louder because I think we're not breathing. So we're kind of long-winded, pushing out all the air from our diaphragm. And that just naturally made me get louder, just doing it right there. So kind of bringing it back to that breath almost allows you to have that more calm voice, which doesn't escalate a situation. So I'm assuming that almost helps even with the volume of your tone as well.
Yeah, it does. And there's also different breaths, like breath grabbing we can do often in those situations where it's like those moments where we interrupt, or like we're so heightened that we're kind of like in the conversation too much, so that's when our breath is like,
yeah,
right. So if we can bring the breath into the belly, slow the breath down, our voice becomes calmer, right? Our pace becomes slower, and it opens the space, as opposed to creating a space that's really constrictive, right? That's like, yeah.
So is there, based on the sensations that you experience during this level of discomfort, are they partnered with any specific method that works well? So say a raised heart rate works best with breath, or nausea works best with touch, So is there any one, if you're experiencing specific symptoms, that works better than others?
So I love that question. I think that some of them work better with others, right? Like, so when your heart's beating faster, a really great one is being able to like rub the chest, right? Anything with touch when your heart is beating faster calms the heartbeat, right? Breath also, like if you can bring the breath to the belly, that will relax the heart, but it will take longer.
Okay, so quicker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then with nausea, the belly breathing is a good one.
Yeah.
But like there's so many different sensations that we can feel, and the work is to like try out the different tools or practices and see what becomes a go-to for you, right? Because your sensation is usually the same. The sensation, no matter what interaction you're in, if you feel stress, it's kind of the same sensation in each situation. So you'll find specific practices that really resonate, and those would be the go-to ones that you would do.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next one is eyes toward. So usually in these interactions, we have a tendency to see the other person, whether we know it or not, as the enemy, right? Because they are the threat. They're the thing that is making our bodies feel unsafe in that moment. And so our eyes are really outward, and they're very hard focused on the other. And it's all happening so quickly and unconsciously, but within us, right, we're making judgments and evaluations about the other person, about the thing that's happening. And it's very hard for us to connect with that person, right? Because we kind of turn the person into the other, right? They're no longer kind of on our team, right? And so what we want to see instead is, when we have that discomfort in the body, can we turn that person into somebody that like we want to be helpful towards, right? Because connection creates calm in the body.
Yeah.
Disconnection, does not. If a person we're talking to gets upset and they turn around and walk out the door, I mean, our entire body can be in a heightened state of stress, right? Because suddenly the connection that was there was disconnected. So what we're looking towards is how can we find that connection again in those moments, right? So one of the things we can do is come with a sense of appreciation, right? So while the other person on the line is maybe upset, or maybe they're yelling at us, or whatever it might be, can we find a way to appreciate them somehow, right? Can we kind of take this stance of appreciation towards them in that moment? There's also a meditation that is a longer meditation, but you can do in this realm of mindfulness, like mini mindfulness practices, which is really offering things to the other person. So it's wishing them things in that moment. So, may you know peace, may you know love, may you know joy, right? Just offering them something in that moment so that you start to see them as someone who is experiencing the world, just like you, in terms of the things that they want and need, and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's another practice that you can do.
And one of the things that we teach is, when you're de-escalating a situation with patients, is taking a breath and remaining positive and talking slower. And so, but sometimes when patients are being a specific way, it's really hard to see them in that positive light as you are describing. So that's a really great tool to like add into that to help you change your mind a little bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it makes it, I mean, it makes you then want to do those things, right? It makes you then want to speak kindly to them and be helpful to them. And if they are someone that you can see again, yeah.
For sure.
And then the last practice is, I call it need to say. It's really when we're in these moments, we are talking to ourselves in those moments. We don't necessarily know it. Again, this is all happening so fast, right? So the sensation piece and the mindfulness piece is all about slowing down so we can pay attention to the discomfort and then sub in one of these practices, right? But what's happening, we're talking to ourselves negatively about the person, the situation. We're talking to ourselves in a way that's keeping us in this heightened state. So can we instead talk to ourselves in a way that is more helpful in that moment, that is going to relax the body, that is going to help us access more of that calm state? So one word that you can say to yourself over and over 3 times, because 3 times a charm, right? Is soften. So even if you just say to yourself now, soften 3 times, just see what happens to the body.
Softens my whole, made me want to take a breath.
Yeah. Right? It totally relaxes the body. It makes you want to take that breath. Then you're present, you're here, you're looking at the other person, and you're able to connect, right? So saying the word soften 3 times, sometimes, a word like swerve helps people too. Like they're starting to see the language kind of come at them, and they're like, I'm going to swerve from this so that I don't get stuck in it. I don't get caught in it. Right. There's, you can say things like, let it be, 3 times, but you want to feel the body relax based off of the language that you're using in that moment, so that then you can engage and interact. Right.
Yeah.
I was a competitive track and field athlete, and one of the things my coach used to always say, instead of saying faster, was open up, because consciously open up gives you the kind of it sounds less aggressive, it sounds less forceful, it doesn't trick the nervous system into think I got to go faster. No, you just open up, open up your body, open, and in turn, that meant faster. But I always remember how I would respond when people would tell me that when I was on the track versus faster, or you're down on that split or whatever, you know?
Yeah, like you can feel the difference. Faster is like, and
Right.
open up. I mean, you're open, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and a lot of the self-talk studies that are done have been done within athletics.
Mhm.
And they have found that talking to yourself in a way that is really helpful moves you forward, right?
Mhm.
And it's also when you're, on the free throw line,
Mhm.
you're able to kind of white noise the distraction
Mhm.
and talk to yourself in a way that's creating the calm in the body so that then you can make the throw, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that's also really helpful is to say your name with it. So you're like, Cynthia, soften, soften, soften. They've done research to say that when you say your name, it helps the nervous system as well relax even more. So
Interesting.
yeah. So those are like the mindfulness practices that you can do in the moment. And then there's meditation, which is really just more like the formal practice of mindfulness. It's where you carve out time to sit and meditate and pay attention to, one thing and see your thoughts and let them be there, but then bring it back. So you're constantly coming back to the present moment again and again. And there's certain meditations that you can do that will help you access more of the sensation in the body, or help you connect more with owning your own suffering, or talking to yourself differently, or seeing another person with kinder eyes. So there's lots of different meditations you can do, and I did send over one for you guys to share. So meditation is also kind of really, I mean, it's really helpful in terms of just putting it all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much for sharing all of that with us. I feel like this is, even when we're talking about sports analogy at the end, I feel like every day, working in the industry we work in, and, all of our attendees that are viewing right now, just, it's kind of like one big Super Bowl every day. It's a lot of high achievers, it's very high stakes, high pressure, and being able to implement literally any of these can just, skyrocket your mentality and, therefore performance.
yeah.
I know we're running out of time, so I won't have you get in too much in depth on this, but I know you have a new book coming out called The Pause Principle.
Yeah.
And I have a little QR code for anyone watching right now that wants to pre-order this, but can you give us a little synopsis about this pause principle and sort of what the book is, and kind of, how this could maybe help some of our viewers?
Yeah. So the pause principle is really to soften, right? Like what we've been talking about. And the book goes into the practices that I've talked about here way more in depth, and gives a lot more different kinds of practices that you can do. But it really is to help create more of that space between the event and our reaction, right? So it's really learning how to expand your capacity for discomfort so that you can stay on the call even though it's difficult, or you can stay in the conversation even though it's feeling really uncomfortable, right? So it's supposed to be helpful in that way, and that it gives you in the moment practices to do to keep calm in those situations.
I love that. I think this could be extremely useful for everyone watching, including Charity and I. We both are going to pre-order this book as well. So again, I just want to thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on, and just the perspective, and, on a really important topic, just in general, keeping your calm is something that I don't think very many people do well at all. But there's always room for improvement with everyone. And we're going to be including that meditation that you mentioned earlier in our post-webinar email. And I know that we'll probably have some questions come in from people, and we'll send those over your way. And, maybe we can include those in an additional email out to our community too, because I think this is more important than anyone realizes. So we really, really appreciate your time, and this has been amazing. And we're looking forward to reading your new book.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Right. Bye, Cynthia.
Bye.
Well, that was so awesome. Thanks everyone who tuned in. I feel so much more relaxed after just listening to her talk. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But we're gonna kind of wrap things up here. I know we're kind of running out of time. So the winner for this month's ReceptionScope prize is Brooke at Guelph Facial Plastics. So we're really excited to have her as part of the community, and her first month she gets to win a prize, which is so exciting. And so the prizes this month are going to be that tabletop fireplace, I guess, and then the cute little Carhartt cooler. So email me, Cassie at yellowtelescope.com, which one of those prizes you would like, and I'll get that shipped to you. And then for next month, we have 2 different options, and then we're throwing in a bonus prize. So you can have this heated coffee mug, which is great for the winter. Nice little charcuterie bamboo board that you can take on hikes. But we're also going to include 1 Cynthia Kane book. Now, this could be any of her books, so go ahead and do whatever research you'd like on which one you think speaks to you the most, or we can also pre-order her new book. I think it would really help every single person watching. So we're really excited to have that we were able to have her on, and hopefully we'll have her on in the future as well to elaborate on some different topics, because I think this is really important and something that we can continue to learn more about every day. So.
And then don't forget to submit your hot updates. As you saw, we had some amazing ones this month. And then we'll be seeing you in next month, November 12th, and then December 11th as well. We are going to have a guest next month as well. So
yes, I have a special guest that you guys will definitely want to be hearing from, and all of our practices that we will be seeing at seminar in 2 weeks. We are extremely excited, and we can't wait to connect with you live. But thank you for watching ReceptionScope again. This has been amazing, and we will see you next month.
Yep. Have a great Thursday, everyone.
All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.